Coming up this week on the Digital Lifestyle Show, Gary's here. We're going to catch up on all the news. We've got lots of builds on different channels from Microsoft. So we've got beta, dev, canary. We'll talk about that. Gary's got EV news. Lots of EV news that we want to talk about. We've got some smart home news and we've got some music tech news as well. So lots to fit in. So let's get straight to Gary and the show. Gary, good evening.
Good evening.
And that was good fun, the show last week.
It was, yeah. Again, Gary on. That was last minute arrangements, but that was really good. And Gary's, I mean, we could have talked for a few hours more, and we'll get Gary back on again at some point. He's all said
definitely,
he would. So that was really good to talk a bit more about some of that stuff. I learned things. I think you learned things as well, so that was good.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. So I'm trying to get a guest on. I wasn't sure we'd have a guest for next week, so I'll know in a day or so. So if we don't have a guest next week, then I think I might do a live sound design stream next week. But we'll see. So we've got a few things to talk about this week. We had some new builds, a few different ones across all the different channels. I think there's the Everything Electric show you mentioned, and talking about builds, we've got the build event as well next week, so we can maybe talk about what we get coming on there as well. So start off, I'll go through the build news then from last week. So actually, I've been fairly quiet. Microsoft were quite busy with Windows 11 builds last week, so we had a few different builds, and the snip tool emojis. You can now do emojis in your snip tool. So there you go. So that was the big news from last week. But yeah, we did get a few different builds. So we had a Canary channel build. I did a video showing this off as well. So you can now share a link in using Windows Share, and if it's a browser one, if it detects it's a browser one, you can create a QR code for that. So that's quite good. So if you wanted to share a link to your website or whatever, you can share it as a QR code now. I mean, there has been those sites around for some time, haven't there? That's what I've used years ago to create QR codes. You can just put a URL in, it'll give you a QR code. But this is now built into Edge, makes it nice and easy for people to share it. So I think that was really the only change, other than they've sort of scrapped some things in Copilot that they were experimenting with the copying text and images into Copilot. So they've decided to pause that. So while they're working on that, so those were the main changes really. The rest of the things were some fixes for sort of startup issues and some bits and pieces. But they just started on this Canary channel, so this is the underpinnings to what might probably be 25H2 or something like that, or 25H1. That's but like Microsoft point out, Canary channel isn't specifically tied to a release. It's things to be tested. What is tied to the release currently is the dev channel, and the dev channel is on 26210, which is the 24H2, which Microsoft even say it's 24H2, so we know it's 24H2. And there was just a few bits and pieces on that one in the settings. What they have done on that is there's a little update option now, as there was or there is on the beta channel, so you can flip that switch on and you'll get the updates sooner. There are some things that are being rolled out to if you tick that box. So in this case, those two options, which are the a few setting changes. And if you don't have the one that everybody gets, whether you've got a switch on or not, are these fixes. So they're rolling those out. There's quite a lot of fixes on there as well. So Windows 11 24H2 is on its way. I guess in October, September, usually September, around that time later this year. This will be in dev for probably a couple more months, and it'll go to beta. And then it'll go to release preview and then to release around that time. So quite a few different builds last week of all these different channels. We did have a beta build as well. And these changes will be rolled out to the general Windows over the next few months as well. Although not always. Sometimes beta gets them first. In fact, this is a new one, that copy thing and the copying files from Windows Share. So funny, in the one channel they've introduced the QR code, and the other channel they've introduced this image share, and not in both. So this will make its way into Windows at some point in the future. And like I did mention as well, you can now got emojis in your snipping tool, so that's I'm sure a lot of people will be happy with that, and it can detect QR codes as well. Paint's also got a bit of an update as well, so lots of build activity going on there. Now talking of build, when is build, the Microsoft build event?
Good question. I think it's next week.
Yeah, I was thinking it's next week. Yeah.
I've got an invite. Yeah, it's May 21st to the 23rd.
Right, yeah, so it's next Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, something like well, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, yeah.
Yes, we go out on Thursday this week. So we'll be so what do you think we're going to see in there?
You get a co-pilot, I get a co-pilot, everybody gets a co-pilot. Yeah, it's just going to be AI based again, I'm sure. I mean, everything Microsoft's been announcing this year has been AI based.
Yeah.
I would expect to see some of the stuff transition from the GitHub event I went to a few weeks ago. To GitHub Universe, there's a lot of AI announcements on there. Because the one thing about GitHub is it's all public because they put everything on their own repos and actually have announcements on there. So they don't have a lot of secrets. So I think a lot of the stuff will probably will come from there. But I mean, there'll be interesting announcements. There'll be all sorts of things going on at Build. But yes, it's. I don't think we'll see much in the way of new devices. Might see some movement on the ARM side, I suspect, just from a couple of rumours I've heard, but nothing's concrete. Yeah. But Build is the developer event, so you can't really expect co-pilot, yeah.
Yeah.
Almost certainly.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that we're not going to see new versions of Windows. We probably will get some more about 24H2, but most of that seems to be known anyway. We are running it, so it's not like it's a super secret one. Although they may have some interesting features that have been held back for Build, so it's nothing to say that but if anything, it'll be a new AI feature or something like that will make its way into Windows. It could be in 24H2, it could be in next year, whatever. Microsoft we've mentioned for some time now, they can turn on and off features. So the feature could be on your machine and they can just turn it on when they're happy with the testing results. So it could be in any of the builds, in any of the channels or whatever. So yeah, so maybe we'll see something interesting on there. I guess Satcher's got a keynote and we'll see if something gets announced there. In terms of, like you said, hardware, we know there's rumors, and I think even been mentioned in a few places that there are an upcoming Microsoft event, but no one seems to have a specific date on anything else or what they're going to be talking about. But I suspect there'll be some consumer type event for that. But again, I don't think we're not going to be seeing the return of the events like Windows Phone. That Surface event that they had, the Surface, which ones was it? They had the Surface laptop, the Surface Book, the Windows Phone, the Band. That was 2015, actually, wasn't it? It's not going to be. I don't think we're going to see one of them, but we could get a Microsoft event with some consumer devices. There's been rumors of Surface devices with ARMs. We'll have to wait and see. But it would be interesting to see if Microsoft push the ARM front after those rumors of more ARM devices. As Richard told us last year, he didn't have really brilliant. He did it first, and then his experiences with that ARM dev box were pretty poor. They don't really talk about that at the moment, so I'm quite surprised if Microsoft are going to push ARM onto consumer devices, and I think we've seen leaks from Lenovo perhaps having one as well. You'd think that they would be pushing something like that, but maybe they're just waiting now for the OEMs to start shipping ARM versions of Windows, and we'll see. But it's an interesting one, isn't it? Those emulations. For something like my Surface Go 4, where I use it for note taking, browsing, email, that would be a perfect device. But for something like this laptop studio I'm on now, where I do my video editing and I've got the music application stuff, I just can't see it being that good, the emulation being that good for stuff, especially the music and the video editing software. It's very processor intensive. So unless you get native versions, of course, but I don't think that's going to be that simple. So maybe this is the initial push will be for consumers, for like note-taking devices and portability devices with long battery life, and then we'll get more devices in the future as more applications get rolled out. I mean, as a developer, I suppose you're not really doing that much development anymore for Windows, so you don't really have to pick ARM or Intel or whatever, because it's all mobile or browser.
Yeah, I honestly don't know many people who are developing for desktop anymore. Even corporates no longer develop desktop apps. It's all done as browser apps, because you can do. I mean, certainly with Blazor on the web we can do virtually everything we used to be able to do on desktop apps. So it's doing a lot of that recently.
Yeah, it's easy to maintain and deploy and everything else.
The deployment story is the key thing. I mean, it's so easy to deploy something which is web based.
And people are used to that model as well, aren't they? It's not difficult to train people on it. But then for stuff like I said, like the video editing software, you've got to, well, I say got to, you don't have to, but currently you want hardware editing. You want a real local application using the hardware for that, and I think those perhaps niche environments are things that will come over last to ARM. So like I said, if you're a corporate and you have everything browser based, and then you could roll out ARM versions of PCs because it's all browser based. But if you've got specific tasks, then maybe not. But for consumers, I imagine if you're just say if you're doing a bit of Office and browsing and everything else, then you'd be fine with an ARM device. So maybe it will come. Maybe this year is ARM on Windows year. not Linux on the desktop, but ARM on Windows.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's see. So I'm looking forward to build and seeing what we get next week. I'm hoping that they'll throw us a few surprises in there, but I don't think maybe the drinking game will be to take a drink every time Copilot's mentioned, but I'm not sure that's safe. That's probably not a safe thing to do, because I think Copilot's going to get plenty of mentions. So the other thing that's happening pretty soon is the EV show up in the north this time.
Yep. So that's end of the week coming, not this week, but the week after. So that's 24th of May onwards. This is the Everything Electric Show North, or Fully Charged North as it was last year. It's rebranded, and this is in Harrogate at the Harrogate Yorkshire Event Centre, just outside Harrogate. It's a really nice venue. I'm told this is actually one of the best of the events which the Fully Charged crew run, the Everything Electric one. It's just it's a very good family atmosphere there. There's going to be lots of things to do, lots of test drives. The very fun micro mobility track, which I really enjoyed at Excel when I was there, running around on sort of bikes and things. So the EV test drive experience, lots of those. There's a commercial vehicle zone, kids activity. So if you're going with youngsters, there will be a lot for them to do. They're running a lot of little things there. There's circus skills. There's the ability to build sustainable Lego cities.
Brilliant!
And all sorts of things. So and rides and activities. No extra charge for doing those. There's mini makery, face paint, brickies, which is the Lego side, and fiery jacks, which is the circus skills. So there's a lot of things that they can be getting on and doing. So yeah, that's that would be good. And of course, Everything Electric's not just about cars; it's also about home energy as well. So there'll be all people with all the different types of green energy for your home. Be it zero emission boilers. That's not necessarily a heat pump. That's a different type of technology. As it says, Everything Electric. So good for your exhibitors. And a couple of interesting things which are being launched there. There's a car company which I've never heard of before. Probably another Chinese group, just called Skywell. And they're introducing the BE11 car, which actually looks quite good. I mean, it's good, reasonable range, cut down about 300-mile range, good spec, and suspected to be very low price, sort of probably 10k off the price of other vehicles in the range in similar spec. But it's interesting that you're getting all these companies in now. And I know America today has just announced I think it's 100% tariff on Chinese EVs that gives some protection to its local market. I don't think we're going to go that way in Europe. We'll probably have a little bit of a buffer, but they are driving the price down. And we've talked about the second-hand prices coming down, but it's driving down all cars down, which it needed to. The EV premium, there was a premium on EVs, which was unrealistic. It was based on the fact the batteries used to cost a lot more than they do now. Battery costs have come down a lot, so there's no reason for that premium cost now. Is it? A battery electric vehicle should cost less than the equivalent petrol vehicle because there's actually less complicated. It's a far less complicated construction. So and they used to justify the extra cost because the battery costs were so high, but battery costs, as I say, have come down a great deal. They're getting down to the point where, because at one stage it was about, people used to talk about, if the battery goes wrong, it's going to cost you an arm and leg, it's really expensive, and that was the case. I mean, the batteries were 20, probably 20k at one point for certain size vehicles and 10k or so. But now it will cost you more to replace an engine in a petrol car than it will to replace a battery, and people tend to worry about that when they're doing 100,000-mile range on a car, 100,000 miles on a car. So it's. Our batteries don't go, as people we know find out. They can buy second-hand cars with quite a few miles on the clock, and the batteries are not depleted that much. So that's one of those myths from last week, basically. But it's interesting that it's good to see that price has been pushed down, even if it does mean we've got this Chinese competition coming in and doing that, and maybe flooding the market to some extent. But the makers out there who have had the EV market to themselves for a little while do need a bit of a push, because some of the markups have been fairly ridiculous on what they've been doing. One thing we haven't really talked about, and I think this is worth mentioning because it is definitely an IT or consumer electronics side of things with cars, is access to APIs, and we've briefly touched on it.
Yes, you did, yeah.
So BMW are now cracking down on their API usage as well. So this again is affecting people who are on the Octopus Agile approach, where you can charge your car using Intelligent Octopus to actually Octopus Intelligent to actually tell you when to charge the car, and it's controlled by the state of charge of your car plus the time of day. And you have to have a compatible either charger or car. And it appears that most of the manufacturers are now cracking down on access to APIs, which is reducing the number of cars which are compatible, and cars which were compatible are no longer compatible, and it's causing some ructions out there. Chargers are still available. I think this is actually something to do with the security mandate which has been put out to car manufacturers as well. They have to have a certain level of security for access, for unhackability effectively. Otherwise, they get fined a certain amount of money per car, which is not actually insignificant. It's into thousands. And this was mentioned in my interview at Everything Electric London, and yeah, it's. I think this is actually pushing this. Why the manufacturers are starting to really clamp down on API access, and I suspect we'll see this for all manufacturers over time. Now, there's things they could do to actually, as a developer of back-end stuff, I can tell you there's ways they could actually have their APIs open to other third parties without all this worries about security. But they're obviously not going that route. So yeah, it's a shame because it was convenient to the consumer, but the problem is security always trumps convenience, which is, as you know.
And I suppose if there's a potential of fines and things like that, then they're just going to lock down the API, because that's how you guarantee the security, isn't it? And you're not going to get hacked, is just by not having that endpoint as a weakness. As a vulnerable, as an attack vector, as they like to call it, don't they? So if it's not there, then it can't be exploited. Which is a shame, because you want that. So that the API is allowing the charger to talk to the car and to the electricity company and say, okay, you need some charge, now's a good time, or now's expensive, I'll wait a bit and do it later. Without that two-way. But so does the charger though still knows the state of charge of the car, or is it the other way around? The car says, "Give me some charge."
Yeah, the car tells it to give charge, because the charge it's
Mm.
basically for use with fairly dumb charges, so the car's controlling the charge. Now there are smart chargers out there. There's a few of them which are actually on their list of own, who we've spoken to on the show many years ago. Have got one which is compatible, but yeah, it does restrict it to some extent.
Yeah. So the cars aren't publishing their state of charge for as an API. That's sealed, and they just request the charge when they want it.
Yeah.
And when they take the charge, is it a electric request, as in it just draws the current down, or does it have that bidirectional, say, "I'd like some charge, please send me some"? And it is
a switch, so it's control switches basically. So there's signal pins, which are sometimes problematic. Actually, that's one of the things which causes issues with charging, is that sometimes those signal pins go rusty and they don't make such good contact. But yeah, there is definitely it's all. I think it's actually a similar thing to the old control system, which was using the power over the Ethernet over power side of things. I'm trying to remember what the PLA standard. I think that's what's used.
Right.
Power line automation. That's it.
I see. Yeah.
So sort of the signals being sent off like that. But yeah, that's basically the principle.
Right. Yeah. So I suppose, yeah, like security always trumps features. The bad press, if BMW cars can be hacked with this, and set on fire or whatever, they don't want to have that exposure, do they? So yeah, and it's the consumer that loses out. But you think there are ways of doing these things securely, but yeah, it's a shame. But so now, if you don't have one of those charges, I guess you've got to be aware of the tariffs yourself, haven't you? And think about when you charge.
Yeah, but equally, you can't actually get some of the best tariffs, because this intelligence one is, because of the reason it's so cheap is because it's allowing them to balance the grid, so they can choose when they want to control it, and they give you more hours of low charging because of that. Whereas if you just do like I've got, which is just an offset, basically a cheap rate, that's a lot more limited number of hours, so I can only charge 4 hours a night at a really cheap rate. Whereas my friend who has got this intelligent is able most nights to get 6 or 7 hours of charge.
Yeah.
On it, he can also fill up his battery from his solar as well, top that up overnight. So he's got on the thing as well. So it is useful, and a shame it's going away for some vehicles. Yeah.
And I think it always happens. You start off with these ideas, and they get reduced. It's like the smart home stuff, isn't it? At one stage, we had APIs for everything, and everything could talk to each other. And over time, they've been siloed as well.
Yeah, indeed.
Like IFTTT and things like that. Even not necessarily security, but we had a lot more options for automation. But on talking smart home, I changed the batteries in my switchbox thermometer.
Oh wow!
That's been going some time, so I think it's about a year on that. So
yeah, I've just realised I've got to recharge the batteries in my IKEA blinds in here, which is we only the second time I've done that since I've had them. So that's a year and a bit. So it's good going.
Yeah. I think that's one of my jobs for summer. I'm going to replace a couple of my indoor Arlo cameras and put more. I'm having the kitchen done this year, so I'm going to get rid of the cameras. There was one in the kitchen, sort of watching the back door. I'm going to flip it around and have the one outside looking at the back door. So I've got to decide on which smart home camera I think consider. I've currently got an Arlo, which it works great, but they more and more taking their services into a paid service. So I was thinking the Blink XT has always been okay, although I do find it a bit hit and miss when I want to just look at it, whereas the Arlo is always reliable. So I don't think, what camera would I go for next? Would I get another Blink or an Arlo or whatever? But I think the Arlos, like I said, they're quite expensive. There's a lot of restrictions on the new devices, so I think it might be one of the Blink ones. But of course, there's the Ring, isn't there, the Ring cameras to consider now as well. So there's plenty of ones on the market, but I want a wireless one like the Blink and the Arlo, and that I can just mount outside. That's not too high, just so that I can get with a ladder, perhaps to change the batteries. I'm not worried about having totally 30-foot high, so that it's not tamper proof. It's not that critical. I just like having them around the entry points just to see what's going on. Really, the one at the front door more or less works as a doorbell camera because it's just above the door. So I don't really. It's more used for that than anything else. But yeah, I am going to have to think about those. But it's a shame because the Arlo have been brilliant, but it's just they kind of box themselves in. I suppose they weren't perhaps making enough revenue out of it, but I've been on some of the forums and they've upset a lot of their users, and I can see a lot of their user base has sort of drifted away because what was maybe £150 camera works great, but then now if you buy one of the new ones, you need a £10 a month subscription. It's just it's a lot for not very much that you're getting for that, and I get sick of all these monthly subscriptions and everything else. So I think, but as far as the Blink camera still has never asked for a subscription, although they have a premium one at Amazon, but they do seem to include the basics in the package.
Yeah, and of course Blink works with the Alexa devices, and you can use a doorbell and all that stuff like you can with your it's quite good.
Yeah, so I think maybe that'll be the next thing I look at. But when I have negotiated with the finance committee for the kitchen project and got some Hue strip lights to go under the countertops. So there are some a lot cheaper ones, but I decided to go for the Hue ones because that's what I've got everywhere else. So it makes sense just to keep them all the same brand ones. So I'm gonna have those in there. I already got the Sonos to go with in there as well, so already. But the Hue ones I'll be looking to fit in there. So that'll be quite nice. So considering the price of ovens and things like that. Oh, I have gone for smart ovens as well. So I'm going to be getting the Neff ovens, which have got a smart home connectivity standard with them. So I'm going to have those. So they've got so the oven itself, the dishwasher. I'm trying to remember what else has got it. I think the hob as well. They've all got the Smart Connect. Actually, I was going to check what they were called because it's a standard that they use for for their ovens and their features. So there's a standard thing. I'll find what it's called. I'll try and find what the feature's called, but I did see it today. So gonna be having that. So maybe in the summer I'll be able to talk about that some more when I've got those. But you can do things like set the temperature, and you get alerts when it's up to temperature and all that kind of thing. Plus you can access them remotely and all that kind of thing. So yeah, it's going to be quite interesting to see what I can do with these. Like the dishwasher will tell you when it's finished and all those things. Which when I was in the choosing some of the appliances, I thought, well, do you need a dishwasher, a smart dishwasher? But I said, yeah, well, you have to go and check at the moment. So no, I don't want to. I don't want to check. I want to be alerted. Yes. So anyway, so maybe in the summer I'll talk about that. But I'm just going to look on the website what it's called. Oh, they have a smart dock as well and all sorts of stuff. But I don't think I'll get one of those. It's just the ovens and everything else that it's got to set. But like I said, there is a standard. I'll find it later and let you know what that is. Was there anything else on smart home you wanted to talk about?
I mean, Aqara have released a new hub which everybody's kind of raving about. I don't quite know. Well, I do know why people are raving about it. So this is the hub M3, and the clever thing it does is it actually. So a lot of hubs will transmit IR signals, so you can use them to control IR devices. But this one will actually read IR signals. and it will relate it to the device. So the example I've seen is where you've got an air conditioning unit, and you want to control that with your smart home with using the iOS things. But someone might pick up the remote control and still use the remote control to try and control it, which then messes up your smart home system because you haven't got that. You don't know what it's been set to.
Right.
Whereas this hub will actually read what they've pressed on the button and bring it in, so it will then effectively act as the middleman to control the air conditioning. So it will retransmit the infrared. And the other thing about it is it's fully off cloud, so it's all local control, which is nice. So there's nothing going back up to the cloud to control it. Everything's on local control. It's a full Matter hub, so it can control any Matter devices. It's got a thread router built in, so it's got anything which is Matter over thread can be controlled, and it's got Zigbee built in, so it covers a lot of bases. And Akara seems to be getting better and better at their products recently. Yeah, it looks good. I'm not the greatest fan of Akara's automations. I think they have some strange things going on the way they actually set their automations off, but it is really impressive as a hub. So it's as I say, it's got a two-way 360-degree IR blaster, so it reads and writes. It can act as an AC thermostat. It's got it has the it acts as a Matter bridge for classic Akara devices. So if you've got any old Akara Zigbee devices, you can then make them Matter compatible, which means they can be used in other products. It has a speaker built in, so you can use it as an alarm, which is quite good. And it's privacy focused, obviously, so it's all local and end-to-end encrypted, so it's all online. So it looks quite good. Not actually out yet. It will be out fairly shortly, but there's all the press stuff going on about it at the moment. And it's a nice little tiny box, so it's quite good. If anybody's not really got into the smart home world, it may actually be a really good alternative to some of the others out there, because the kind of range of products is really, really good. There's a lot of products out there, so yeah, that's definitely worth a look. Smart Things have made a few changes recently. They've added floor plans in the UK. Didn't used to have that, so you can now create a 3D floor plan of your house and use that to control the things. It makes it a little bit easier to find devices to control them. I've always quite liked the idea of actually pointing at rooms and pointing at the light to turn it on. That seems to work quite well.
And I've found, what I was talking about, this is the NEF system, the Home Connect.
Home Connect, yeah.
Yeah. So, so you've got like the remote tools, remote monitoring and things like that. And then you have different appliances that are compatible with it as well. So, some things like the dishwasher is quite handy, so you can know whether it's finished or how long you've got before you can go and get in it. So I think my wife was slightly less enthusiastic about it, but I think she thought, well, why, she's getting the new kitchen. She wanted the kitchen. I like the smart home bit, so it seems to work. But actually, I think it looks quite useful as well. So timers and things like that, and temperature ovens and things. Apparently you can use it things like, you can actually go on your phone and say, I want to cook chicken and it's this way, and you put it in and it just sets the oven for you. I doubt whether we'll use that side of it, but you never know. But I think I'll more look to see if things are up to temperature and if everything is working, and you can get alerts if something doesn't work and that kind of thing, if there's any issues. So yeah, a bit of interest for me. I'm gonna do that in the summer, so I'll have the Hue lights and the things, so maybe I can flash the lights when the oven's ready and that kind of thing. Because you could, if it's got an Alexa integration, then you could do that. IFTT would have done it, but now it's all in Alexa, where I do all those kind of things. Yeah,
Alexa kind of is the new IFTTT, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Just a couple of things I want to mention before I finish as well. I did have a new music download for this week. This is for owners of Coleman Wave Station. This pulls up from the Akai AX73 collection, which I had for the Mod Wave. I've converted it for the Wave Station as well, so you can get those 80s sounds on the Wave Station, and they're all special collection of that. So it was an interesting synth, analog synth, digitally controlled, and they've all been sampled, multi-sampled, and I've got those in there. So yeah, look over those. They're a free download on there as well. And there's actually a music tech show going on in Germany at the moment, and Korg did announce some new update to the Korg collection, which I've got a few videos on as well. So when this comes out, it says early summer, I'll update it. But there's some new virtual instruments that Korg will launch on there. So the ARP2600, which is the synth I think it was used on Close Encounters. The do 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 do. I think that's one of the things they used. Korg have some rights or license thing for ARP stuff, which is the American synthesizer company no longer manufacturing, and they've made the 2600, which is a big blue thing with patch cables in, or there's different color ones. There's a number of virtual ones out there, but there's actually a few actual physical ones, recreations out, but I think this is the first virtual one, or certainly the first one from Korg anyway. So I shall be interested to give that a try. But they've also included an emulation of the Vox Continental, which was the 60s organ, and an EP as well, so electric piano. So I'm looking forward to try that. I've got a few videos on those, and those were quite interesting. Remember that super synth I mentioned that you could buy, that they're recreating, that 70s one? Well, they've said they're going to make some more, or they were going to do them to order, but they decided to make them as a limited edition run. Maybe that's because they've proved quite popular. So if you've got a few grand to chuck away, I can't remember which it was it 10 grand or something like that? It's a lot of money, but yeah, they are making those as well. So yeah, quite interesting to see those. So hopefully we'll get to try some of these sounds of this collection soon. I think that's where maybe we'll get Pete Brown back on to talk about from Microsoft, talking about building PCs for music applications, because you need probably a good one to run that. And a little, maybe if got any Kraftwerk fans listening, then I may have a little thing interesting for ModWave users that have got into like Kraftwerk coming out next week as well, probably. So that should be quite interesting. Like I mentioned, for next week as well, we're either next week going to have a guest, or if there's no guest, he's not available, then we will have a live stream. So I will probably figure that out by the time the show goes out on Thursday. So keep an eye out on the digitallifestyle.com, and I'll post the details of that. If we are doing a live stream, we're going to delve into filter design, different filter types on synths, particularly the ModWave and Wave State. So that should be good fun. I did enjoy the live stream last time, so that was quite interesting, and coming up with sounds on the fly is always quite interesting. So also make sure you check out our YouTube channel. Actually, a lot of stuff on there, and get quite a bit of interaction through the comments and the community thing on YouTube as well. So yeah, head over to our YouTube channel for that one. Gary, what have you got on your YouTube channel?
Well, obviously I've got the coverage I did from the last Everything Electric. So if anybody wants to find out what they could expect at Everything Electric North. And I should mention again that they have put the offer on. If you're under 25, you're getting free. So that's
great.
So that's a good deal. So if you want to find out a bit more about that, you can look at my channel and have a look at the interviews I did there, and there's a good interview I did with Mr. Dan Caesar, who's the CEO of Fully Charged and basically responsible for the Everything Electric events, where he talks a bit about what's coming up at Everything Electric North as well. So that'd be worth catching up with, and there'll be more content coming soon.
Excellent. Yeah, well, look forward to seeing that. Oh, I also want to give a brief mention out, unrelated to anything else, but I went to see Eric Clapton last Saturday at the in Liverpool, and he was excellent. So what a good show that was. Been a fan of Eric Clapton for a long time. I've never actually seen him live, so I did enjoy that. And he had an absolutely fantastic blues Hammond player with him. Had a proper B3 with the Leslie with the rotating speaker, and he was doing the thing where they play with the palm and the palm smear and all that, but Eric was was on form. Definitely, it was a great concert. That lots of good stuff on there. So I really did enjoy that. There's a lot of tech, music tech now in these events. I was walking past the outboard sound thing with the cameras and everything else, and they must have had 10, 20 laptops and screens up there, and all. I was having a bit of a nosy one before it started, and there was a big screen now with all. I think they were light levels as well that they were monitoring. So they've got this kind of thing that they were monitoring as well. 4 separate big like TV grade, HD cameras that they were using, not for broadcast, just for the for the gantry screens and everything else. So yeah, that's what you expect with someone like Eric. He's got. He's been doing it long enough. So, but yeah, really, a lot of tech goes on these shows. But yeah, it came down to music, and it was all brilliant. So, we really did enjoy that. Right, well, I think that's everything we've got for this week's show. So, we shall be back with some form next week. Keep an eye on our channels to find out what. And we'll see you next week.
Cheers.